I admittedly don't know much about the IVF process, but I wanted to ask you guys like how it differs from a queer couple to like a straight couple.
I think like what we realized going into this is we also did not know a lot about the IVF process. We went in pretty like amateur, you could say, like going into this. And what we found out is it's a lot more mentally and physically taxing than we realized. Um, but I would say the only differences being queer are that we most likely wouldn't have to do as many rounds as someone with fertility issues, who that's usually the people that would be going to like the clinic we're going to. Um, and then also, I think a lot of these facilities like aren't set up for queer couples. We got really, really lucky with ours, and um, as soon as we walked in, there was like rainbow flags and trans flags. And I was like, okay, that always makes me feel safe. On top of that, they were just so careful with me. They knew it was like a very difficult process as a trans man to go into those situations that are considered female and, you know, for women. And like, they were just so sensitive to me. So we got lucky, but I don't think a lot of queer couples do experience that. I think there is some discrimination and there's not a lot of research. And I think they kind of aren't treated the same way. So I think those would be like the main differences.
What does the process actually entail, like for both of you?
So basically, both of us, we have the exact same process. We had a little bit different symptoms, but so you start off with some appointments, some ultrasounds, some blood work, and then you go on hormones for 10 to 12 days. So every day you inject a certain amount of hormones. He had to inject a lot because he didn't have as many, eggs and stuff.
I was on 4 times the normal dose because I've been on testosterone for 4 years.
Did you have to stop taking the hormones that you've been taking?
Yeah, so he stopped taking his testosterone.
I didn't have to though.
The doctor didn't say he had to, but he wanted to give himself the best chance. We had the donor sperm ready, so we created embryos with his eggs and then embryos for my eggs. So both those embryos right now are in the freezer. We wanted to implant right after my surgery, so like it's called a fresh embryo transfer. So we would have been pregnant now potentially, but I had a bad reaction to the IVF, so I wasn't able to, unfortunately. So we have to wait, but basically after the surgery, you just heal for a few days. Some women have a lot of complications, some don't. And then within the following weeks, you find out how many eggs survived, how many you can transfer. And a lot of women with fertility issues have to do multiple rounds, as he said earlier. So we got so lucky. He got so lucky that he only had to do one.
In your ideal world, how many children would you have?
4?
I think 4,
yeah.
Okay, power to you, because kids are a lot of work.
I was in high school and I did it. So I know people are always like, are you sure? I'm like, if anyone's sure, it's me, because I had to do it single and a teenager and I still want more kids. So
Jesse, how did your personal transition like help sort of help you guys navigate like the struggles of like IVF and those hormones?
I mean, I think one of the things was that like being trans, if you're on like hormone replacement therapy, you've done injections and you've dealt with ups and downs of hormones. Like that was something I had been dealing with for a long time. I know most trans people deal with it at one point or another. So I guess that kind of prepared me somewhat for what it feels like when, you feel like it's kind of the end of the world, but it's really just these injections that are doing it to you. And then I think also maybe just like being trans, like it does require a lot of strength, especially in this political climate. So just going into these things, I think I had like a lot of like strength and understanding of like what this was, and like that there was this end goal that was so worth it, even if it was going to get hard. And I did warn her about that. I was like, this might get really, really hard for me. And she was like, yeah, I know. And she was right there the whole time.
From the majority of the comments that I've seen, I think people have been really supportive of you guys sharing this journey publicly. Is that the case, or are there times that you guys receive criticism?
Definitely. I mean,
Yeah.
you cannot like be a trans person in this world and not get hate for almost everything. So adding something like IVF and creating a family on top of it, my Instagram to this day, like I posted that I was doing this. God, that was what, 2 months ago now?
Like you said, yeah, real men do IVF. And
yeah, my caption was obviously a little evoking. I did caption it "Real Men Do IVF," but the point of that was to call myself a real man, because I knew the first thing people were going to say is, "Yeah, see, you're doing IVF because you're a woman," And then the second thing was to show people that men do IVF. Like if you actually do your research, cis men do IVF all the time. So my point of that caption was to sort of like break those stereotypes and open people's minds. And of course, all it did was create the opposite. And I have never gotten more hate on anything ever in social media than that post.
My God, but what is it that people are upset about? Because everything you said makes absolutely perfect sense to me. I'm not understanding what people are upset about.
I feel like even when I post a caption, I just posted mother and father on my recent post. People are just like, no, you mean mother and mother? No, he's not a real man. He's a woman. Like they just love like going off. And it's like gender and sex are the same thing. It's like, no, they're not the same thing. Like, I just don't think people just want to hate. That's it. Like, they don't want to understand.
I don't think people are fully ready to like really understand this as something more fluid. I think it's very rigid. I think it's boxed in. And I think when you try to make gender and sexuality fluid, it's like they cannot comprehend it and they cannot handle it.
Yeah, that really breaks my heart. And you shouldn't have to go through that. This is already such a difficult process, and it should be a joyful one in the moments that you can have joy about it, you know? That's
It
awesome.
has been mostly joyful because we are really good, both of us, her even more than me, at like ignoring haters. Once in a while it does get to me, but I think we're pretty good at like just seeing that what we have is real and our life is real and our family is real and we're happy, and we just kind of ignore the rest if we can.
Do you ever engage? Like, are you ever tempted to just like clap back at people? Yes, tell me.
I do all the time. Well, not all the time, but there was a period where I was kind of going a little bit more crazy with it. But yeah, sometimes I don't need to engage because we have supporters that will engage for us. Like,
Yeah.
if I see a hate comment, I'll look at the comments and everyone is backing us up. But sometimes every now and then I just, I can't help myself. Like, I see a young mother with young children, like commenting the most foul stuff. So I just, I go to their profile and I leave something back. And I'm like, I just hope that your daughter or child doesn't experience hate that you're pushing on us. Some things that people say are like really, really mean. It's like, well, how did you even come up with that?
I mean, I get full blown like death threats, like telling me I should unalive myself, like telling me I'm the cancer of society. I get like the worst things ever.
People are like, we feel so bad for your future children. Like, someone calls CPS.
Yeah, literally say that Arlo should be taken away from me.
They're saying that we're abusing and mutilating children.
Yeah.
Because like we let Arlo dress how they want to dress. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Arlo probably faces their own fair share of hate, and then having to deal with parents who are in the spotlight, who are sharing their IVF journey, which opens them up to more hate. I mean, I'm sure you guys as a family have conversations about how to.
Yeah.
Very recently, actually. And I mean, if you were talking to Arlo specifically, they would talk your ear off about this subject, but it gets hard on them because they get people on there and they're not someone who like posts a lot.
Yeah,
or
they don't have Instagram.
Yeah, they don't have Instagram. Their Instagram is our cat, and like they just they just have a TikTok that's, they post every once in a while and it's really for their friends. And so then they get these people coming into their comments being like, oh, you're only non-binary because your dad's trans and he did this to you and look what he's doing to you and you have no identity yourself. And it drives Arlo absolutely crazy. So, it's something that I guess is sort of like, I guess, the price we pay as a family who does put these things out in the open. But I've always told Arlo since they were little, I've always said like, as long as we can handle it as a family, like I never want to stop. I never want to give in because of those haters, because there's so many young people out there that need people like representation, because I didn't have it growing up. And I want young people out there to see someone like me happy and successful and getting married and having kids and being like, I can have that too.